Good evening. I'm Sean O'Callaghan for the Foreign News Service. Tonight, a special report on the war in Vietnam. In the remote A Shau Valley, American paratroopers have been locked in a desperate struggle to hold a small firebase against overwhelming North Vietnamese forces. Fire Support Base Sandy sits atop 4 hilltops in the rugged mountains near Laos. Rebuilt earlier this year, it was meant to cut enemy supply lines running into South Vietnam. The task fell to the 112th Airborne Division under Colonel David Renner. Supplies came only by helicopter. The men call it one of the loneliest posts in Vietnam. Back in March, the paratroopers arrived under sniper fire. They cleared the landing zones and began rebuilding bunkers, artillery positions, and radio towers. For weeks, enemy scouts watched from the jungle. By April, small probing attacks began. Mortar landed without warning. Rocket-propelled grenades targeted helicopters. Soldiers dug deeper, never sure if the next round would find them. Private First Class Mark Delaney, just 19, described his first weeks here. At night, we'd sit in the mud, listening for footsteps in the jungle. Sometimes the mortar came every hour. Other times, it was quiet, and the quiet was worse. You knew they were out there, waiting. His words reflected the constant tension felt by the men who lived on Sandy's exposed slopes day after day. By June, attacks eased. Commanders thought the worst had passed, but intelligence later revealed nearly 20,000 enemy troops massing in the valley. On July 2nd, the storm broke. Mortar and artillery pounded Sandy in a barrage that lasted 4 hours, and it did not stop. For the next 23 days, Sandy was under siege, testing the endurance and courage of every soldier on the hill. Specialist Frank Malone, a radio operator, remembered the shock. The first time the mortar hit, I thought the whole hill was coming apart. We ran to bunkers, but there weren't enough. Guys were diving into holes, into anything. You just prayed the next round didn't have your name on it. Like many of his comrades, Malone was barely out of his teens when he faced that first test under fire. Colonel Renner ordered assaults on the surrounding hills to break the siege. Paratroopers fought through thick jungle, but enemy defenses were too strong. Then disaster struck. On July 19th, a supply helicopter was hit, crashing into the ammunition dump. Explosions rocked the hilltop for days, destroying howitzers and shaking morale. Private Delaney said, "It was like the whole top of the hill was lifting off." With supplies dwindling, radio operators worked non-stop, calling in fire missions to hold the enemy back. Pilots risked their lives to land under fire. One Huey came in loaded with body bags and left with both the dead and the living packed beneath its rotors. Specialist Malone recalled, "We were leaving any way we could, riding out with the KIAs. I just wanted off that hill." The withdrawal order came on July 22nd. Over the next 8 days, 52 helicopters flew into Sandy. Gunships circled overhead. Bombers blanketed the jungle. And artillery thundered day and night. More than 30 aircraft were hit. One Chinook was destroyed. Somehow, most of the garrison made it out alive, lifted through smoke, fire, and relentless enemy attacks on the valley floor below. At least 60 Americans were killed here, more than 700 wounded. Enemy losses are estimated in the thousands, but that is cold comfort to the men who carried their friends to evacuation helicopters. Pilots and crews risked everything to bring men home. For those who survived, the memory of Sandy will never fade. For Washington, the fear is that another battle like this could reignite protests at home. The struggle here, half a world away, continues to divide Americans and test the nation's resolve in Vietnam. And casualties were not just anonymous names on a report. They were sons, brothers, and friends, pulled from classrooms and ball fields to fight in jungles they had never heard of. Their loss underscores how deeply this war touches American families. For years, officials may downplay what happened here, but for the men who fought here, it is a story carved into memory. From Firebase Sandy in South Vietnam, I'm Sean O'Callaghan for the Foreign News Service.
And now for the daily headlines on the Frontline News Network's radio broadcast. In the northern sector, American Marines and supporting units maintained a firm defensive posture at several forward positions. Resupply flights continued through intermittent rain, and engineers reported steady progress reinforcing berms and sandbag lines. Commanders described conditions as challenging but stable. Along the border region, reconnaissance patrols reported sporadic contact with enemy forces. Small unit engagements were brief and localized, with air support available on call. Medical teams noted a rise in non-battle injuries linked to terrain and weather. Foot care and hydration remain priorities for line units operating in the jungle. In the riverine south, boat crews on routine patrols navigated narrow waterways and canals, inspecting river traffic and providing security for local craft. Brief exchanges of fire were reported in isolated areas. No significant damage to friendly vessels was recorded. Advisors praised cooperation with local forces on nighttime watch and checkpoints. You've been listening to a broadcast of the Frontline News Network.